Today's date is Thursday, April the 29th, 2021, and I have an incredible man here with me today. His name is David Straight, out of the United States. You're going to meet a man who's incredibly courageous, incredibly true to his word, who's done everything he can since I've become aware of him over the last couple of years to truly bring an incredible light forward to this world. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So for those of you that may not know who David Straight is, I just first came across David, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago. I started coming across your wonderful YouTube presentations, and I was in the process as well of learning about the common law, and now I've got to the level here, I guess you could say I'm on point here in Canada with it. But can you tell the people a little bit who may not know much about you, David, of your background and your history?
Well, I come from a long line of warriors and patriots. Every war this country has ever had, I've had a relative in it. One of my great-great-great-grandfathers signed the first Constitution. We were at Lexington and Concord. We were on the Mayflower. We were at Jamestown, Virginia. A long history of leaders and warriors and settlers, you might call gypsies even. We travel a lot. I still travel today. I was in during this whole pandemic last year, I was in 19 states, 32 cities, 3 countries, and I just travel all over helping people. I worked under 2 executive orders to help both corruption in our judicial system and with child trafficking. But the main thing I do is travel around and do seminars. I teach people the law and how to be free according to how God planned it, by taking dominion. And it's the I am principle. I am the king, and God is the King of Kings. So if he's the King of Kings, we're all kings, sons and daughters of God, kings and queens. And so I teach people how to be free by acting as the king, not as acting as a pretender. I've got a lot of education under my belt. A lot of intelligence work, a lot of just flat being a warrior, and I've stood up all my life for people, and I'm trying to teach people to have strength and power and stand up for themselves, and give them hope for the future. Our country has done a lot of dastardly things over the last 150 years. I'm not anti-government. I'm not an anarchist. I believe in government, but I believe in anti-corrupt government, and keeping government into the box that we put them in. We the people laid down the law, and when our government steps outside of the scope and authority of the law in which we lay down, then they're committing violations and felonies, and even as far as capital felony treason upon we the people. And our job is 2 things: to correct the errors our public servants make, to keep them in that box, and to educate them so they don't do it again. And that's the only 2 jobs we have in life. The rest of the time we can be free and fishing.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So we have to correct the errors. The problem is we do not correct the errors. Government operates through the consent of the governed. And you give your consent. They presume and assume. They get your tacit agreement, your consent, and then they use hearsay to rule over you. And that just leads you down a path where you're railroaded. If you look up the word railroading in a legal dictionary, it's to lead someone down a narrow path or rail to a predetermined outlook or conclusion. And what I teach people is the I am principle. I am the king. King's busy. He's got things to do. He's free. He can do whatever he wants. He comes to you, they come to you with a presentment. Anything you get in the mail is just a presentment. It's an offer to contract. The king has two choices. He can accept it or he can rescind it. That's it. When you take control of your trust, your minor estate, that's when you're free. But you can only take control of your trust and your minor estate and be the king and accept and rescind things after you have taken dominion over your 3 jurisdictions. And there's really 4 jurisdictions, but we don't talk too much about the 4th one, simply because people aren't ready for it yet. So the Bible is a trust indenture and an instruction manual. The first few books of the Bible forms a trust. God was the executor. He gave me, man, dominion over the land, the air, and the water, and this is law. The land became common law, common to all mankind. It's property, equity, and rights. It's about who holds superior title and who has superior rights. The air is ecclesiastical or canon law, which is trust law. It's to be a fiduciary for the benefit of another is the highest form of law. To be that fiduciary, you have to understand trust. And that's why the Bible is a trust indenture. And then it goes into who begat who and who begat whom. Those are your heirs, your hierarchy forever. And then he teaches you, like through Moses, how to walk upon the land. He teaches you through Christ how to walk upon the water. The whole book is a trust indenture. And then he gets into even Revelations, which is the 4th jurisdiction of space. Okay, God's laws, LAWS, land, air, water, and space. The land, the air, and the water are what we're concerned with. The water is admiralty law, which is contract law. It's having your business affairs in order and having your proper contracts. Anytime you jump out of 2 jurisdictions into one with both feet, the other 2 jurisdictions will destroy you. This is why a lot of people that do not take dominion over all 3 jurisdictions end up in jail, because they're jumping out of those jurisdictions, leaving the judges with something to adjudicate. What I teach is how to walk into a courtroom and take control of the court. To take control of it before you even get there. Dynamic communications so that you never get there in the first place is the best way to go. But if you do end up in court, how do you take control of the court? That's what I teach. I teach how to walk in there with your peace flag, how to walk in there with your real money, how to walk in there with your trust indenture, how to walk in there with your superior titles upon your superior rights, and how to walk in there with your proper contracts. See, the judges, they wear an honor hat when you first walk in the door. You can't have trust without honor, and you can't have honor without trust. When the judge is wearing his honor hat, which he does for about the first 15 seconds, and then he's already passed it and adjudicated it, he is looking to see if the man walks in there by special appearance, merely there to settle the matter as the executor of the trust. And if the man doesn't walk in with his trust indentures in hand, then the judge becomes the executor, the man becomes a trustee, and the prosecution is the beneficiary. See, the beneficiary brought a case against the trustee because the trustee mismanaged the trust on behalf of the beneficiary, and therefore owes the beneficiary something. So you're automatically presumed guilty before you even start. When in reality, you have to show that he's the executor de son tort, or a false executor, and you're the executor. of the trust. The only way to do that is to be able to express the trust, to have your trust indentures in hand. Okay? So if you've done that, you walked in with your trust, you're leaving him with nothing to adjudicate because he can no longer be the executor and the prosecution can no longer be the beneficiary. So the next thing he does is he takes that honor hat off and he puts on a judge hat. And in the job of being a judge, he looks for one of two things. Is it civil or is it criminal? If it's criminal, it's going to trial. If it's civil, which almost all cases are, even criminal cases are civil. If it's civil, he's looking to see, he's actually in common law at this point. He's looking to see if the man walked in with his superior titles in hand. If the case is about your automobile, maybe they stopped you on the side of the road and towed your car. Do you have the manufacturer's statement of origin or the manufacturer's certificate of origin? Or does the state have it and you have a certificate of title? If you've got a certificate of title, that's an abstract of title. Anything that's an abstract is a fallacy. The state would have superior title. But if you've got the MSO or the MCO, now you have superior title, you stand on superior rights, you've won the case. What about your house, a house foreclosure case? Did they foreclose because you owned your house? No. They foreclosed because you had a warranty deed, you held title of joint tenants in common, joint, husband and wife, tenants, renter, common, state, joint renter to the state. You never owned your house in the first place. You had a warranty deed. War rent. That's a declaration of war. T is an acceptance of. Warranty. You accepted the declaration of war. You hold a warranty deed and you hold it in joint tenants in common as renter to the state. The state holds superior title, not you, because you're not the grantee. So you have to be the grantee. You have to hold your property and land patent by grant deed, described in metes and bounds. Otherwise, you don't own.
Even though all of this documentation, what about from reconveying correcting the titles? Is this what you're referring to when you're walking into the court? See, for me, the trust has always been, for me, is I had nothing to do with its creation, and there's obviously this massive constructive fraud that's going on before me in this public courthouse. They're trying to put all these different personages or legal terminologies over me, but if I'm simply walking into court and I don't wish to be in that jurisdiction, the way that you do it is by using these trusts already are you reclaiming the trust back that they set up when you were born, or how are you doing that?
Absolutely, I'm claiming the trust. It's worth millions of dollars and it's mine. The way the public charitable trust was written, I'm supposed to be the co-trustee, the co-beneficiary, and the only signatory officer of the trust. I'm supposed to be the controller. But no, we're sent out to sea as a baby and presumed dead and lost at sea until we should return and claim our minor estate. Our minor estate is a trust, so we should reclaim it. And then we should make the claim that our trust, the people that we left as stewards of our trust have been pillaging it, and we're here to be made whole. It's my trust. Now, it's a partnership deal is the way it was supposed to work, but there was no full and honest disclosure. And because there was no full and honest disclosure, you feel like you created it's not yours. When in reality, it was created as a partnership between you and them, and you just haven't declared yourself as the partner. You haven't asked your business for anything. So here you've got this beautiful business out there, this trust that's been making a bunch of money, and you haven't bothered to walk into the accountant's office and say, hey, cut me a check. It's time I took a little bit out of my partnership. See, when you're the king, under I am, I just take every presentment. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can hold it where the camera is.
Yep.
I stamp it received, date and time, sign my darn name to it. That's when I received it. Then I make it, I keep the original, I make this a true copy, and I sign it. Then I either rescission the darn contract, date and time within 72 hours. And if you notice the signature on here, I'll try and get close. David Lester Straight, all caps, hyphen Bessel. Because if you look at the federal rules of civil and criminal procedure, I'm the vessel, all over through it. And now I sign it, David Lester Straight, the executor, upper and lowercase, by my signature with my king seal below it in gold, signed in purple. These are the proper colors to do this in. And I either accept or I rescission everything. So every presentment that comes to me in the mail or is served to me, I'm the dang king. A runner walked in with a presentment. Great, he hands it to the king. The king is busy. He doesn't have much time. He just accepts or rescinds everything and sends it back. If I get a utility bill in the mail, I just accept it with my acceptance stamp instead of the rescission stamp, and I do exactly the same thing, and I send it back, and it gets paid for out of my trust. I don't write a check. I don't hand them a credit card. I just pay the dang bills. And that's claiming your trust and taking control. You just walk around acting like the king, and you're always free. That's why I feel like I'm the only free man in America. And that's all it is taking control. But don't claim to be the king until you are one. If you haven't changed your status and established your dominion that's what a sovereign citizen is. That's an oxymoron. You can either be 100% a citizen or you can be 100% sovereign, which is a king. But you know what a sovereign citizen is? It's somebody making the claim to be the king when they haven't done the steps necessary to correct the errors of their past, their slavery. And until you've corrected those errors and established your status, your standing, taken dominion over your jurisdictions, leaving them with nothing to adjudicate, then you're not the king, and you're making a false and fraudulent claim. So you get stopped on the highway because you took the plates off of a car you don't even own. You took state plates off a state car that you don't have the MSO on. They own it. Now they're going to tow it and throw you in jail. Okay? That's what sovereign citizens do. The king owns his car. He just drives around and travels to and fro. And he uses his proper documentation, his passport. This is what I use when I travel. My passport and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And I hand them both together to the officer. And I say, he'll walk up to the window, I'll roll the window down, I'll say, "Hi, officer, how you doing? I hope you're having a good day." He'll say, "Can I have your driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration, please?" I say, "No, this is the only documentation I use while I'm traveling," and I hand it to him. And I shut my mouth. He might ask again. I say, "No, I don't use those. This is the documentation I use while I'm traveling." Then he'll take my passport. He'll look at it. And if he's a smart man, since the first paragraph on a passport says the Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby requests all whom it may concern to permit the citizen or national of the United States to pass without delay or hindrance, and in cases of need to offer all lawful aid and protection. So if he's smart, he'll just hand it right back. If he's not, he'll take it back to the car and then he'll scan it. And when he scans my passport, it's going to say, "Do not stop, do not detain, state national." And he'll walk back up and hand it to me. If he insists on giving me a ticket, no problem. "Officer, smile, take the dang ticket." Rescission it. Send it back in. You're done.
So that's the simple page you use for when you're rescinding something that you've just shown everybody here is just those few items that are on there.
I use a bunch of stamps I had made up.
Right.
And I don't have time for anything else. So I just stamp everything. Here it goes, done, out the door.
Right.
As soon as it comes in, I handle it right then and there. That day one, and then I never have to think about it again.
So let's look at everyone today right now that's going on with this COVID stuff, David. For example, if you're a restaurant or a business owner and you've got these service corporations, which I refer to them as, like Ontario here or whatever, and their bylaw officers are coming onto your property and now they're giving you all these fines and that, and then you're being dragged into court. Right? How would you go about defending that for somebody that's being dragged into their courts? Obviously, you're looking for them to have all their ducks in a row before they went into court. But when that's happening, like say it happened, they don't have that information in place. How would you go about correcting that for someone?
Oh, I've helped hundreds of businesses. First of all, I would like to get their ducks in a row first.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd like to turn their business into a private membership association if I can, before anything happens. There's no need to register an LLC or a corporation with the state. Just be a PMA. Make every person that comes in your door a member. Okay? Even if it's a coffee shop like Cavista Coffee in Bend, Oregon. And what a wonderful place. No masks have ever been required in there all through COVID. Okay? And they're busy from the moment they open in the morning to the moment they close because of that. We all support them, okay? Those against the masks. Well, they've been getting fined $5,000, $15,000, $20,000. I think their fines are up to $72,000. We just rescission them, send them back. Doesn't matter. See, we have three branches of government for a reason. We got a judicial branch which makes laws. We got a legislative branch which makes laws, We got a judicial branch which enforces the laws, and then we have an administrative branch. An administrative branch can only control their agencies. They can't control we the people at all. A governor cannot mandate me to do anything. In fact, where does the word mandate come from? The Masonic Lodge. The Masonic Manual. Any Masonic Lodge mandates their people. It is satanic. If you want a satanic ritual, put on a mask and stand 6 feet apart. That's what every satanic ritual makes you do. This whole thing is about a war between good versus evil.
Right.
And if you accept that, more power to you. I was in New York City at the height of the pandemic in Central Park when the Comfort was there. I was the only guy without a mask. Okay? I don't wear a mask. They can't force me to wear one. There's no law that says they have to. When I flew here on an airplane to Salt Lake City yesterday, the stewardess comes on and she says it's a federal law that you have to wear a mask. I said loud enough that everybody on the plane could hear, well, that's a lie. There are no federal laws saying someone has to wear a mask. None. They're suggestions. See, what people don't understand is there's two or more of everything in this world. There's the United States corporation, which, by the way, according to their credit bureau, Dun & Bradstreet, they're out of business. Joe Biden is the CEO of that corporation. Then there's the United States of America, with our 19th president, President Trump, is president of that corporation. And it's not a corporation. It is a de jure government of we, the people. It lives within inside each one of us. And it operates side by side. But as long as people believe that idiot Joe Biden is running that CEO position of that private corporation, a foreign corporation, by the way, well, then it exists. I was at a pizza shop for lunch. If that pizza shop declared bankruptcy yesterday, yet this morning they opened their doors and the owner showed up, and he allowed the public to come in believing that it was still open, well, then he's still in business, even though the bank and the court said, you're out of business, you're bankrupt. But if they come in and he cooks them a pizza and they pay their $25, then he's still open. And that's what the United States is doing right now under Joe Biden. It's because the people believe it. Do I believe it? No, he couldn't get 15 people at any of his rallies or events. President Trump got millions of people. Okay?
When we talk about the rules, sorry, David, you talked about the rules of civil procedure. You're probably not familiar with what I've been doing up here in Canada, but I've been attacking these rules of civil procedure because they do not apply to we the people. They're created by a society that I not belong to. How I've always looked at things, David, if there's words that appear on a piece of paper, if my wet signature's not on that piece of paper, then that doesn't apply to me. It's that simple, unless there's some sort of a contract. So
that's what makes them, not to interrupt you, but this is what makes them so interesting. We need to know what the rules of civil procedure is because they're to be used against them. See, we think they're using them against us. Look at the United States Code. That code was never designed to hold we the people accountable for anything. It was used for we the people to use against them. So you learn the code. Now that's how you keep your public servants in line. See, by being a citizen, person, or resident, and you making that claim that you're a citizen, person, or resident, you made yourself a public servant on equal footing with them. So their corporate bylaws apply to you just as much as they apply to them. You were registered with your birth with the Department of Human Resources, HR. You walk in and go get a job with a corporation like IBM or Microsoft, and they send you down to HR first to fill out all the paperwork. That's where the birth certificate was. You walked into a foundling hospital, into a birthing ward, docked at the dock by the dock tender, the doctor, and a bill of lading was received, and it was sent to HR, and you got registered. That's given a flag. That vessel became a ship with a flag, and it was sent out to sea. And your soul was taken, your footprints, the placenta, your blood was taken. You were declared dead and sent out to sea, presumed lost until you should return and claim your minor estate and become among the living as a living soul. We're not even men and women. We're living souls. See, in the Bible, in Genesis 2:7, it says, "And I, God, created man from the dust of the earth, and I breathed into his nostrils the breath of life." So before he breathed into the nostrils, he was a man. He breathed into the nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
Right.
Our bodies are nothing but minerals. Every element in our body can be found in the dirt.
Right.
It's our soul that's alive. Our soul is an energy field that can leave our bodies when our bodies get old and deteriorate and die. And that still lives. It lives on forever. Okay? So we have to stop thinking of ourselves even as men and women. We're either living souls who control an estate for the benefit of our heirs forever. Even when the United States, our founding fathers were creating land patents through the General Land Office, it was signed off by a president of the United States so that it was no longer U.S. property. It became the grantees to his successor, heirs, and her estate forever. And it says that on every land patent. See, it was all about property, equity, and rights. That's what common law is. That's why our founding fathers said this nation was founded upon common law. But even Christ taught us about the jurisdiction of the water. When Moses came out of Egypt with his people, and he came to the Red Sea, and God parted the seas, he said, "Walk upon the land, go over to the land of Canaan and inherit that for your benefit, for your heirs forever. That is your land." He was teaching them common law. to go settle that, to hold that for your benefit of your heirs forever. The Bible literally is a trust indenture, and then he teaches you how to take dominion over all three jurisdictions in there. When Jesus Christ walked upon the water, the fishermen were on the boat. They were fishing off one side of the boat, and they were barely catching enough fish to even feed their family. And Christ walks up to them and says, hey, come follow me, have faith. Come around to the other side of the boat and cast your nets, and you'll be a fisher for men. And they cast their nets, and they caught so many fish that they could go back and feed a village. That's commerce. He was teaching you about the jurisdiction of water and commerce. When you understand land, air, and water, when you understand trust, you understand commerce, you understand the jurisdiction of land, you read the Bible in a whole new manner. I've never believed in reading the Bible chapter and verse, because then you pull one verse out and you think, oh, this means something. What you ought to read is the whole thing as a story, as a trust indenture, and then how to follow the trust. And then you understand the Bible in a whole new meaning. Okay? And you understand life in a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the biggest reasons we fail. God warned us about 4 professions in the Bible. He warned us about the bankers, the attorneys, the doctors, and organized religion. That's it. That's what he warned us about.
And they pretty much got a lock on everything today. I wanted to ask you, David, from my end here, I've always approached things, again, like this whole trust thing. I never went after chasing this birth certificate that was created all outside of my knowing when I was born in a hospital. I've always entered the courthouse in the capacity of a man. I've got my documentation, how I was born. I've tried to do the reclaiming of, my standing basically through, notaries or documents that I've put into the courthouses. But a lot of these courtrooms, they don't want to look at it. And when I've been very successful actually in stopping court cases before they go forward. For example, a couple of women got tickets recently in $1,200 tickets each in Calgary or whatever. So we just wrote 3 communications, produce the obligation, the contract. I don't know any agent or officers of your service corporation here, so kindly produce the obligation, or is there a verified claim that I trespassed against a man or woman? And if you don't have those 2 elements, or a bill of particulars, right, or there's a man or woman that's coming forward moving this court, then there's no court. And that seems to have worked very well in here. And that's why I'd say the big thing with me, I know that you drill down on the rules of civil procedure. How I've got it out here, because the bar is the biggest enemy next to ignorance in our world.
Absolutely.
How I've got the bar up against the ropes right now here in Canada, David, is I brought it out in 2 huge cases. One's called the Sukleski Court that was established in Milton here back in September 12th of 2020, and another one out in British Columbia, the Pahar Court. Both of these courts have drilled down now on, provide us, because they're blocking us from bringing this truth in. This guy was having his estate pillaged or whatever, so I said, fine, show us where the Estate Act, show us where the Justice Act, show us where the rules of civil procedure apply to we the people if we're moving our claim in court into a public courthouse. We're supposed to be outside of that society, and they have never brought forward the evidence that they're required to produce to show where the rules of civil procedures have jurisdiction. So that's how I've approached it here in Canada, and people are getting attention to this now. Like, to me, that's the underlying thing, because once we get the rules of civil procedure out of the way, David, your average man or woman can go into that courtroom and they can move a claim in court like lightning. But right now, yeah.
And I agree with that. That's exactly what I do. I call it dynamic communications. It's staying out of court. It's like a tennis game. Yeah. As long as you keep the ball moving back and forth, then it doesn't hit the net and fall to the court. Okay. Yeah. And dynamic communications works very good. They come after you, they make a statement, you repeat it back to them, you accept it, and then you use a negative averment like you just did, putting the burden of proof back on them so that they can't prove it. It pins them into a corner, and you never end up in court. Now, that's great for those that you can catch ahead of time. You can catch at the first instance, right? Yeah. In fact, if I can catch it at the mailbox, I can rescind or accept it. Okay, right. So that's even faster. If you pass your time period, then and they're coming down on you heavy, then you can use dynamic communications to keep it out of the court. But most of the people I deal with, they've been involved in their court case for a freaking year now. They've been losing over and over and over again. And so then you have to change their status, their standing, take dominion, leave the judges with nothing to adjudicate. And once you do that and you get down to where you walk in with your peace flag, you walk in with your silver and gold so you can't be declared a pauper, you walk in there with your proper standing, you have your trust indenture, you have your superior titles, or you have your contracts. Now it's just a matter of standing there and you can ask the judge 3 or 4 questions. One I like to ask them is where does the law come from? Where does its origins come from? Because they don't know the freaking answer. And then that leaves the door open for me to bring up Genesis and land, air, and water, right? When I can bring up land, air, and water, then I can ask them where did they claim to derive their authority over me? And they either, is it through statute? And if they say yes, well, then I can claim I'm not the citizen, personal resident. Your statutes don't apply to me. If they say it's under the doctrine of parens patriae, where the state is your parent, I can show them the fraud of the entire birth certificate fraud process and show that they don't have that authority under parens patriae because God is my parent, not them. Okay. You come down to contracts. Well, that's easy. That's like Michael Jordan and Nike. Michael Jordan signed a contract with Nike, 5 years, $1 billion. Nice gig if you can get it, $200 million a year. And what did he give up? He only gave up the use of his name, right?
Yeah.
That's all he gave up. They put it on products and they sold them, and they made $7 billion off paying Michael $1, right? But in his contract, he had to notify Nike if he got in trouble with the law. So when he was driving his Ferrari down the freeway outside of Chicago, and he got stopped at 100 miles an hour, he called Nike up and said, "Hey, I got this little ticket problem." Nike says, "No problem. What time's your court?" He tells them the court date and time. Nike flies their lawyers in on their corporate jet. They show up at traffic court. They don't talk about the truth and the facts of the case, what the highway conditions were like, what officer was, how fast he was going, what kind of car was he driving, was he safe or not. They don't talk about any kind of facts. No fact or truth shall be tried in court. What they talked about was Michael Jordan's under contract with Nike, and, Your Honor, this police officer did not get the prior written express permission of Nike to use Michael Jordan's name, therefore devaluing the product. And under U.S. Code Title 15, you can regulate commerce, but you can't interfere in it. Now, you want us to sue you for patent infringement, trademark infringement, copyright infringement? We demand that all the documents using his name be destroyed because you're devaluing our product. Case closed.
Yeah.
See? So you should be able to, at this point, just walk in and say, "Your Honor, I'm fully unaware of any contracts that could compel me to perform. If there is such a contract, bring it forth, and I'll follow it to the full extent of the law. But if there's not, we're done here.
Yep.
Dismiss the case with prejudice. Let's all go home.
Yep.
And if you want to go out to tacos afterwards, come on, let's go.
Absolutely.
You and I could be friends."
That's
See?
right. So what do you do then in this case, David, if you make that very powerfully in the courtroom and then the man or woman wearing the robe, they're just not going to listen to you. They're not going to let that sheep out of their pen. They're going to say, "Nope, I've got jurisdiction over you because I say so, and this is how it's going to be." How do you deal with someone like that?
They don't have jurisdiction because you appear by special appearance, not by general appearance. You appear by your court of record first. Before you even get to that courtroom, I've already made a court of record. My court of record, whose name is at the top of the page? I don't put the court's name at the top of the page. My name's at the top of the page. Then I leave 3.5 inches. Then I put the court's name. Why do I leave 3.5 inches? For the registered mail label and the county recorder's stamp. Because I'm going to file it with the county recorder, making it publicly published. I'm going to put the registered mail label on there, making a photocopy of that mail label. And then I'm going to use that mail label, and I'm going to fill out the white form with the post office that goes with it. insuring that document for up to $50,000. For $167, I can bond it and insure that document for $50,000. I can do it for $10,000, $2,000, $20,000, whatever amount I choose, and I can bond and insure my document. What is a court? You look up the word court, it says C bank, C post office. You look up the word judge, it says C banker, C postmaster. I'm going to put them under postal law. I'm going to put them under banking law. 7230-1510 judgment day. 72-hour right to rescind or refuse. 30-day notice. 15-day past due. 10-day opportunity to cure. 0, it's judgment day, and I'll get a judgment, I'll get a lien, and I'll make money. I can make $300,000-400,000 a year just charging our public services. Just charging our public service. I can make $400,000 or $500,000 if I want to. I got a friend in Texas makes $400,000 to $500,000 a year for every time they violate his rights. $10,000 each time, each instance. And he makes it because he uses banking law. He gets a summary judgment. The court clerk signs off of his process. And as long as his process follows banking law, it's a summary judgment. Now he can file a lien. He can call up Dun & Bradstreet and put a report on their credit bureau. Man, the minute you do that, these corporations, these public servants pay you because they don't want that mark on there. And then they ask you to remove it. Great, no problem.
Yeah, process that, Alphonse Fagliero in the United States, he's a good man. He's been reaching back, giving a lot of these rogue ones some headaches because he goes after, basically files them a grievance, notice of claim, then he hits them with an affidavit and then a criminal complaint. He hits them with all 4. And that seems to get their attention once their insurance gets dinged. They're bonded now, they're in trouble.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of work. It's a great process. I do it a little bit different. I just follow the 7230-1510 judgment day, or accept or rescind everything. I just use a very small, simple processes. And once you have taken dominion, you're a free man, because you leave them with nothing to adjudicate. No matter how far you get in, you win the cases. You win them all.
And that's the beauty of jurisdiction, right? Is that jurisdiction is something like fraud, and whether it's the legal world or the common law world, is that you can go back as far as you want. If there was fraud that was obviously, occurring during the judgment or the ruling or whatever, anytime leading up to it, eviscerates all. And same with jurisdiction. If you've been operating on the admiralty side of things all these years, law, and you're supposed to have been in a common law jurisdiction, you're able to, hammer down pretty quickly on the court that way. They don't like that, I find, but it's very powerful.
Right. And I don't care whether they like it or not. If you're nice, if you're smiling, if you're confident, they start shaking in their boots. Okay. Yep. When you walk in there with the specific things that I said, and what I do is I sit clear in the back of the room, back of the courtroom. And when the judge walks in and the bailiff says, "All rise for the Honorable Bob Smith," or whatever the hell his name is, I make a concerted effort to lean back in my chair and put my feet up. I'm not going to stand for that judge. I'm not going to turn over jurisdiction at that point. When he calls my name, I'm going to stand up. When I take my first step from the back of the room, I'm going to start talking. And I'm going to say, "I'm here, Your Honor, by special divine appearance, calling for a constitutional court of record, asking for a summary judgment of the truth and the facts placed upon the record by my documents, my court of record." And by the time I get all that out of my mouth, I'm through the bar and I'm up there and I'm laying out my peace flag, my 40 pieces of silver, my trust indenture, my superior titles, my contracts. And I stand there at military attention, put my hands behind my back, smile. And when I'm all done and I'm all ready, then I say, "I'm ready, Your Honor." And I just smile. Man, I'll tell you what, prosecutors, you can watch them cringe if you do that. You watch them cringe. What they want is they want prey. They want somebody scared and running about ready to bolt so they can pounce on them. They want prey in a courtroom. When you stand there in military attention, your feet shoulders width apart, maybe your right foot slightly forward, you never, once you get your feet in position, you never move your feet. You just twist your hip and you point at the judge, you point at the jury, you point at the prosecutor, whatever it may be, and you just do that. Of course, right now everything's on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Makes it a little harder, and I don't believe there's any due process on Zoom, and I think that'll come out pretty soon. But it's all this COVID crap it's all influenza A and B. I mean, there's a rich guy here in America who's put up $1.2 million for anybody who will isolate the virus, show them proof of isolation. How come nobody's taking them up on that?
That's right.
Because they can't even isolate it. Okay,
right.
There's no test that works. Every university that studied it says it's just the influenza A and B, which we've had for years and years. We don't have any higher death number this year than we had last year or the year before.
Yep.
I mean, all this is crap made up to get you scared, to get you taking the vaccines. The vaccines are genocide. They're going to kill you. 90 million people are going to die in the United States alone out of the 337 million people that are here, and they're going to die over a period of 1 to 3 years from taking the vaccine. That's what the death numbers are going to show. And I guarantee we'll be able to, in fact, if you got a house, I'd sell it now. Put the cash in the bank. Save that cash until our new currency comes out, and then exchange it. But in the meantime, just wait. When 90 million people die off, home prices are going to drop through the roof. Hell, you'll be able to walk into a mansion and take it for adverse possession. Through the adverse possession laws, because that many people are going to be dead. There won't be any homeless because they'll all have homes. They'll just take over dead people's homes under adverse possession. And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. See,
that's what those plastic FEMA coffins were made for years ago.
Yep.
They've been planning this since 1983.
Yep.
So,
if not a lot longer, what's been going
right,
on. I mean, these
right.
people are brilliant. They're so evil that's going on in this. And you're absolutely right when you started this off, David, talking about this as a spiritual war. It's about good and evil, right? And unfortunately, our fellow man and woman, it's people like you that are making the difference, bringing that light forward. But that's our biggest enemy, as I taught when, is ignorance. We've just not been given the truth from that very first breath that we took when we came into this world, nor were our mother's fathers told all of this, constructive fraud, all this paperwork, all these trusts and that have been set up all unbeknownst to us. And now they're using it against us through our ignorance. And that's why we have to find, for a man like you, I'm trying to do with all I can right now. The way I look at this is, as we've talked about earlier, when the rules of procedure are out of there, you can get a woman like Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, some of these incredible doctors in the United States that have the goods on Fauci and all of them, and walk into that courthouse and move that court like lightning right there. Get the warrants out for the people, get them brought in, and hold court. That's what we need to see.
There's another great thing you just brought up to talk about right now. Okay, I laughed like hell with Lynn Wood on the telephone the other day. Okay. These guys are supposed to be the brightest attorneys in the world. Lynn, Rudy Giovanni, on and on. Sidney Powell, all of them. Okay, they're supposed to be so bright and so intelligent. What about our attorney generals of our states? Supposed to be bright and intelligent people, right? They're so stupid, they don't even know what the word jurisdiction is. Juris is right law, diction is words. The words you use determines the right law under which you stand, which is either land, air, or water, or space, okay? Those diction you use determines the law you're standing under. If you screw up the words, you screw up your jurisdiction. That's why the judges walk over the top of you, because you're mixing words.
Yes.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're incompetent. You're infirm. You're a minor. You're unable to speak for yourself, right?
Yeah.
But these attorneys, look at State of Texas, all capitals, a corporation, goes to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to hear your case, because a freaking attorney general brought the case through the State of Texas Corporation, which is not a party to the Constitution. And they told them they weren't a party, and the attorney generals of the state were too stupid to recognize it. And 7 other states, like the state of Utah, joined in. What a freaking idiot. If the Attorney General of the state would have brought the case as we, the people of Texas, the Supreme Court would have heard it in 10 seconds.
Yep. Yep.
See, they don't understand their own profession. They don't understand their own laws. They've been dumbed down. Attorneys go get a doctorate degree in a famous law school like Stanford or Harvard or Yale or Georgetown or Willamette University or Lewis and Clark, and they don't learn the law. And I've proved this to attorneys and judges over and over and over again, that they don't learn the law. They learn case law, case law, case law, case law. Case law is the opinion of a judge. He could have been racially biased or politically motivated. He could not like the way somebody looked or talked. He could have ruled against them just because they were incompetent or infirmed or a minor.
Yep.
And you're going to use that precedence to come against me?
Yep.
No, you're not. Baloney. That is shit made up. It's SMU.
Yep.
See, we got to start to have better bullshit meters.
That's right.
Because I don't go with anything that is SMU. Government works off the unrebuttal of presumption. And they presume and assume and get your tacit agreement and lead you down a path of hearsay, and you don't rebut. You don't stand up and say no. You don't rescission. You don't do anything.
Yep.
You don't handle your affairs in a timely fashion.
Yep.
You're done if you don't.
Yep.
You got to be the king.
Yep.
Handle it within 72 hours. You get a letter in the mail, I received it. Even if my mail, I've been gone a week or 10 days, and if mail's piling up at home, it ain't when it hit the mailbox. It's when I open the damn thing and put a date and time stamp on it.
Yep.
That I received it, see? Where's my camera? Yeah, that I received it, see? Received, date, time, my signature. That starts the clock.
Yep.
Then I rescission it. Date, time, it's within 72 hours, by, and I take control of the document. Now it's my court of record.
Yep.
It's got the king's seal on it. I am the king.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you help the Bundys out.
That's the way to be a free man.
Yes. Speaking of free men, you did some great work for the Bundy family, did you not, to help them out when they were using the lawyers initially? And then didn't you reach out to help the one brother or helping him how to access the court correctly?
Yeah, I'm actually getting a call from Washington, D.C. right now. Anyway, Ryan Bundy. Ryan's a sharp man. He understood jurisdiction. He understood law when I explained it to him, and we did his documentation to establish his status and standing. Once we did that, see, prior to that, the courts were saying, don't you bring that Constitution up in our courtroom. Don't you bring the Bible into our courtroom because you're not a party to it. That's what they were saying. As soon as we established his status and standing, Ryan walked in with the Constitution sticking way up out of his pocket. Prior to that, every time he walked in with it there, the U.S. Marshals were confiscating it.
Yep.
This time, the U.S. Marshals shook his hand. And he sat there, and they were questioning a federal witness that day, a Bureau of Land Management agent, and all the attorneys with all the other guys in the court case were questioning this agent. And Ryan sat in the same spot at the end of the line every single day and never allowed to speak in court. And the last attorney got done and said, "We'll rest, Your Honor." And the judge says, "Well, wait a minute, Ryan, would you like to question the witness?" He about fell out of his chair. He'd never been allowed to speak before.
And that's something.
And he said, "Well, yes, I would." He walked over and he asked the agent, he says, "How long have you worked for the Bureau of Land Management?" The guy said, 22 years. He goes, "When you took your job with the Bureau of Land Management, did you swear an oath to protect and to defend the Constitution of the United States of America? And he said, yes, I did. And Ryan goes, well, have you read it? And you could have heard a pin drop. The guy said, no, I can honestly say I have not. So Ryan gets it out of his pocket, and he spends time going through every little bit of it and questioning the witness on it to make sure he understood. And when he was all done, he said, I rest, Your Honor. And Ryan went back, sat down. And she dismissed court for the day, said, come back on, I think it was a Thursday. And they all showed up on Thursday morning, and she let everybody go home. It was over. And it was because one man became a man, and he had status and standing and jurisdiction, walked into that courtroom.
Yeah.
And that changed everything.
Because some of their other family members, they were using a lawyer, were they not? A guy that was working pro bono trying to help them, but they all wound up going in jail for 2 years, did they not?
Everyone who took a plea deal and had an attorney went to jail. The ones that didn't take a plea deal went home. Okay?
Yeah.
Same with Shauna Cox up in Portland, Oregon at the Malheur trials. Shauna established her status and standing, and then they went home.
Yeah.
The ones that took a plea deal went to jail.
Yeah.
Okay? It takes three signatures to put a man in jail. It takes the judges, the prosecutors, and either yours or whoever you gave power of attorney to. Your signature.
Right.
Whether an attorney signed it for you or you signed it yourself, that's your signature because you gave him power of attorney. And it takes you, the prosecutor, and your the judge, to put a man in jail. If you refuse to sign anything, if you don't have an attorney, what is the definition of the word attorney? An actor to a turn. An actor is someone who gets up on stage and lies convincingly enough to make you believe in the character and the plot, therefore a liar. To a turn means to steal from one and turn over to another, therefore a thief. So by the very definition of their profession, they're liars and thieves. Their job is to pat you on the back and say, we did the best job we possibly could. Well, he goes in the back room and signs a surety form and puts you into prison. See?
And they're all getting paid off the bond. Is that correct as well? That goes back to that birth certificate?
Yes, they are.
Yep.
They're all getting paid off the bond. The judge, the prosecutor, and your attorney.
Yeah, see, that in itself for me, David, is a huge thing globally that obviously we've got to root out. We've got to get that corrected from the massive theft that's been going on, all our titles.
How we correct it is two things: change our status, establish our standing, gain our dominion, and claim our estate. Once we've claimed our estate, there's nothing left for them to adjudicate. There's nothing for them to do. It's over with. Then you're free. Then you don't worry about it. Go about your ways.
That's right.
If you get a low IQ bullet sponge person who's forcing himself to hand you a ticket, just smile. Take it, rescission it, send it back. You're done. King's over. Nobody cares. Go fishing.
Do you get into the living testimony in the form of an affidavit? Do you do those documents as part of your process?
Well, I do. If you're see, I help people, okay, and everybody I help is in a different situation. One of them got a ticket in the mail yesterday, right, or a summons in the mail yesterday. Great, let's rescind it. One of them's been in court for a freaking year and they're losing. One of them, their parental rights have been terminated. And how do I get my kids back after my rights have been terminated? We can do all those things.
Right.
The problem is they're all in various stages. And they're also in various stages of education. You got to teach them how to be the king and handle their affairs on their own. That's the true freedom.
Absolutely.
So,
well,
all I teach is freedom. That's it.
Well, Well, that's what I get from you, David. From everything I've seen you do, it's brilliant how you've drilled down on this and how you make this pretty simple for people. You do get technical with a lot of the important words, I guess, that people need to really understand, apart from owning their own lives again. But you do a beautiful job. And so I would just like to say, wrapping it up here, is there a place that people can go to get templates from you? Is there a website that you have? Is there anything like that out there that you can offer to people?
I have groups all over the United States that are really getting good at this, really getting it down. A group in Utah, Scott Prelo and the others around him, Ben Barlow and others, they created a website called statenational.community.
Okay.
And there's, they're putting a lot of time and effort into helping them get their documents done and other things.
Good.
So there's a small fee for that. We allow people to look at a lot of stuff for free. If you've bought my thumb drive or came to my seminars, we can give you a code number to get in there where it doesn't cost you anything to follow up and stuff. So that's available. But we want you to get the basic education that the drives or the seminars do for you.
Yeah.
Those drives are available for $80. They've got a basic seminar on them, which is a lot of hours of education. There's video files on there you can download to your phone and listen to them while you're driving down the road in the car. There's a book on there, a treatise on false arrest and imprisonment, which I had a guy read the first 28 pages. He says, I was in jail. I got your thumb drive. I read the first 28 pages of that book, and now I'm out of jail just from what I learned. He said it was invaluable to me. There's file folders on there with my documents, both in how I've written some, just for educational purposes, so you understand how to write a document, things like that, what I say. And there's also templates on there that you can fill out and do some things like change your status and so on and so forth. So all those documents are available on the thumb drive. The thumb drives are $80. They go to that any profits off that goes to, which there isn't much profit, but any profits go to help the child trafficking victims. So that's well worth it. And the seminars, the cost of the seminar is determined by whichever group around the country is putting them on. They determine the cost because they've got to cover their costs, So some groups charge $100, some charge $300 to do a seminar. But I just show up and talk. So.
Yeah. Well, you're an incredible man, David, for everything you've done. Like I said, I've only recently came across you about the last three and a half, maybe 4 years, but I followed you intently. Anna Von Wright, who I love as well, with all my heart, for all the great work she's doing. Carl Ensign, yourself, and her. You guys are at the pinnacle of what's going on, I think, right now in the United States. You're a very bright light. And I just wanted to thank you very much for being with me here today. I'd love to, I know your schedule is just absolutely crazy, but you're really needed in this world right now. So if there's any other information you can send me, I'd love to put that up tonight when I do the stream for everybody so that they can see where they can track or find where you are and start to acquire this knowledge as well, because people are hungry for it now. I think now this truce time has finally come that we actually understand of this trespass that's occurred against us when we were born and what it means to actually walk this world as a man or woman and correcting all of this fraud that's around us, as you say, honorably, but more importantly, powerfully. And that's where the knowledge comes in that you provide.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As far as seminars are going, I'm booked out clear through July. Okay. Virtually every weekend I'm somewhere. Okay. I do have one little dilemma that a lot of people don't have, is I have a lot of enemies in the trafficking world. I've been shot at, I've been poisoned, there's a price on my head. I can't allow them to know where I'm going to be ahead of time publicized.
Of course.
So that's why I let the groups themselves do it.
Yep.
It helps to keep me and my victims safer.
Yep.
So I don't just put that on the website with a big old long schedule. I'm going to be here because then they're just going to show up.
That's right. So
I can't really do that. And I apologize for that. It makes it a little harder to find out where I'm going to be.
Well, this states that you gave me here, this
state national dot
Yeah.
community.
yeah, I think that's going to be a phenomenal place for people to go to and to start to really delve into this, because there's so many people now. I don't know about your end, but my end has gone up tenfold over the last 10 months. It's just it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
It's just everyone in their
Oh,
brother,
we're in the Great Awakening, and people are waking up like crazy, and that's going to last for another couple of years. There's going to be some turmoil before peace on earth after that, but everything is biblical. It's all nothing's unknown. We know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, pretty much, and we've been told everything about it. So if you're a good, honest, righteous man, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So
all the work that you've done, like I say, especially with the child trafficking, that, and lastly in that, I believe it's all going to get corrected. It's going to be ugly when people actually understand what's been going on globally. But I believe that you've been doing enormous work, especially that's been your main thing focusing down on. We didn't talk about your personal side of this, why I think is really why you're obviously drawn as being a father yourself and what happened to you back in your history with your children when they're taken from you briefly. But that to me, everyone I've met in this, David, there's something that has happened in their life that has been very, very traumatic.
You got to have a trigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something that triggers you to do this,
Yeah.
And that's why we call this the Great Awakening right now. The dragon is going around, and evil is touching everyone's life, and that evil is waking them up.
Yes.
So it's triggering them.
It sure is. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for today, David. This has been absolutely wonderful. If there's anything I can ever do to support you or help you, please reach out to me. I'm fighting this battle up here in Canada. We're getting thousands of people now, are waking up, hundreds soon. So, because our objective is my focus is the rules of civil procedure. I know that if I can get that conversation dragged out into the light, I've got the evidence now showing it right up to the Chief Justice of Canada, Chief Justice of Ontario, both service corporations. Everybody acquiesced after 3 communications, right? Faxed, emailed, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, right? They acquiesced.
That's right.
Well, so there's no evidence of that. So we need to stop this, because the second that happens, trust me, I'm going to have a Dolores Cahill or a Judy Mikovits or a, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. They're going to be right there beside me, and we're going to go right into that courthouse, and we're going to get this truth put down on the record, and we're going to get the warrants out for these people arrested. Because
Awesome.
That's what has to happen. That's
exactly what needs to happen. I concur. Well, I love you, brother.
I love you too, David. Thank you so much, and stay
care.
in touch. And thank you so much for today. And I'll be in touch real soon.
Okay. All right.
God
you
bless.
have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are.